What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Get Paid for Your Pad. Well, it's been a while since I've been able to record a podcast, which has all to do with the fact that I've finally been able to move to the United States. I just signed a lease last week on an apartment here in beautiful California, kind of in between Encinitas and San Marcos, near the San Marcos Lake, which is a beautiful, beautiful area. So super excited to be here. It's been a pretty crazy journey to be able to move here together with my wife. So super stoked to finally be here. But yeah, this month has been a little bit crazy in May. It's been, it's just been very overwhelming, like to get set up here, find a lease. Get all our stuff here, and it's been a little bit crazy. So haven't been able to do any podcasts. I've kind of taken a break to sort everything out here, settle down, and get set up. So now that I'm back here, and you see if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my little apartment here in the background. We're just getting furniture set up and everything. So now that I'm back here, I'll be able to come back to the regular schedule of putting out a podcast every single Monday and every single Friday. Plus, I'll be able to send out more emails as I've done in the past. So, on this podcast, I want to do a couple things. Number one is I kind of want to share the journey over the last 2 years of getting here to the States. I want to do some shout outs to people who've supported me in this process. I've got some updates on what Eric and I are working on, and I have a quick booking tip for those who are struggling to find bookings, and I have some announcements as well on a very special program that I am going to introduce today on this podcast to help a select number of hosts really crush it for the rest of the year to celebrate my arrival in the States. So let me start off with kind of describing the journey of what it's taken to move here. So if you've been following for a while, you probably know that I was here in San Diego working with Eric in our office in beautiful Encinitas in 2021. I was here for 3 months, and this is when Eric and I put together the Legends X program, which we launched, and we realized that we really wanted to go all in on our two companies. Overnight Success, our educational company, but also FreeWild, which at the time was still a concept that we were talking about, but now we're actually, and I'll touch on this a little bit later in the podcast, but we're about to launch this brand actually, so we're super excited about that. But yeah, one thing that Eric and I realized was during COVID, we learned how to run a business over Zoom. But it's just not enjoyable to constantly be in front of your computer. It's so much more powerful to be in person, right? So Eric and I made the decision, okay, let's figure out how I can move to the States, get a work visa in place, and so that we can really work together, and we can accomplish so much more when we can work in person. So what I did is I applied for what's called an O1A work visa. Now, this is a visa that is meant for people with extraordinary skills or achievements in different industries. Oftentimes, you'll see people like musicians or artists or famous entrepreneurs or Nobel Prize winners and that kind of people. That's what this visa is meant for. So when I looked at all the conditions and what you need to qualify for this visa, I wasn't sure if I was actually going to get it because I haven't won any huge prizes or anything like that. So, but I thought let's give it a shot, right? So I started working with my lawyer, and shout out to her. She's done an amazing job, by the way. If you know anybody who is looking to immigrate to the States or get a visa here, then I highly recommend my lawyer. So shout out to Lisa Batten. She's done an incredible job. But yeah, it was a bit of a process. Like basically to qualify for this visa, you have to prove that you're a person of extraordinary skills and knowledge in a certain field. So In order to make that credible, I'm not going to bore everybody with, I could talk about this for like 2 hours of like, all the requirements and the conditions, but essentially you have to show to the immigration department that you're a person who has, such skills and knowledge that they can't really find somebody here in the States, right? And that you're going to be working for a company here. Now, this is not so easy to prove, right? If you've won like a Nobel Prize, or you've been published in like major magazines and things like that, that really helps. But for me, a big part of the evidence that me and my lawyer put together has to do with the book that I published and the podcast and the student programs that Eric and I have created. And initially, when we filed, it took us about 6 months or so to put this together, and it also includes a lot of recommendation letters from people that are kind of established in the industry. But initially, when we submitted it, about 6 months after we started working on it, it didn't get approved. They sent it back, and the immigration department basically said, "We need more evidence. Right? This is not enough. There's not enough credibility. It's not enough evidence to prove that I am an extraordinary person, or whatever you want to call it." So we had one more shot. So I went back to talking to my lawyer, figuring out how do we improve our application. Spend a lot of time, and it's not my favorite thing to do. It just takes so much time and focus to put all this stuff together. But eventually, like we added more evidence to the case, and we resubmitted it. And then in September of 2022, it came back and it was approved. I'll be honest, I was a little bit surprised, to tell you the truth. But obviously, I was super happy that it was approved. But I still had to go to the U.S. Embassy because essentially the next part of the application process, or the next part of the whole process, is you have to go to a embassy somewhere in the world, a U.S. Embassy, and you have to go for an interview, and then the immigration officer is going to decide if you actually get the visa or not, right? So. But there was another slight complication because, in the meantime, and I've been spending all this time in Panama. In the meantime, I had met a very special person that I wanted to be with for the rest of my life. And so we were already planning to get married. But, obviously I didn't want to move to the States without her. So now I also had to figure out a way for us to be able to move together, which was actually a pretty easy process because we already decided we were going to get married, and so after we got married, she was then eligible for what's called a spouse visa. So that enabled us essentially to move to the States together. So that's what we did. After we got married, we then had to go to the U.S. Embassy for an interview, but because of COVID, the embassies were pretty backed up, so it was very, very difficult to actually find an appointment. My lawyer recommended I scheduled the appointment in Amsterdam, back where I am from. The reason for that is that embassies tend to favor the applications or the appointments for people that are local. So since I am from Amsterdam or nearby Amsterdam, she told me, hey, it's probably best for you to get the appointment there. And I tried a number of times, but every time I tried to schedule an appointment, it would tell me that there's no appointments available, and that things were just super, super backed up. So the next challenge was, how do I get this appointment? Now, after a while, I figured out that in Panama, it was actually possible to get an appointment for this particular visa that I was approved for. And I managed to finally, I think it was somewhere in March, to get an appointment scheduled together with my wife. So now, we started preparing for that, trying to figure out like what kind of questions are they going to ask, because it's a bit of a daunting thing. It's a bit of a scary thing that just the idea that like one person working at the embassy pretty much has the power to decide if you are allowed to move to another country or not. And this decision that person is going to make has so much has huge consequences for your life, really, right? Not just for myself, but also for my wife, for for obviously for Eric as well. And one detail, pretty important detail as well, is that my wife's family actually they all live in Florida. And my wife hadn't been able to visit them for quite a while because she's originally from Venezuela. And if you know something about the situation in Venezuela, it's very complicated. If you have a passport from that country, like it's very, very difficult to travel. A lot of countries have put a lot of restrictions on travel for people from Venezuela for obvious reasons. And so she actually hadn't been able to see a lot of her family members for like 3, 4, up to 10 years, right? So it was a huge deal for her as well to be able to see her family again. So we just felt like there's so much that depends on this interview that we're going to do at the embassy. So we spent so much time preparing, researching like the questions that they might ask and all the proof, obviously that we'd be married, and like all the proof that I put together, to get this visa approved, and any questions that we could think of. Like we spent so much time preparing for it. So then we went to the embassy. We're a little bit nervous, of course. And then, when we actually got the interview, it actually turned out to be very, very simple. Like the officer hardly asked us any questions. He was very nice. And it took 5 minutes. It was like nothing like we expected it to be. We really thought this was going to be, a pretty intense interview, and it turned out to be super, super simple. So we were so happy about that. And she basically told us that everything is approved. She's going to send us our passports within a couple of days, and then we would be able to travel to the States and move here. However, a few days later, I got an email from the embassy saying that although our visas were approved, my passport didn't have enough space for the actual visa stamp. So we were so occupied with thinking about like what kind of questions are they going to ask and all that stuff. I didn't think to actually check like how much space is actually needed for the actual visa stamp, because it turned out you need a few blank pages, and I did have a few blank pages, but they weren't the blank pages that I had weren't designated as visa pages. So should have checked that, of course, but I didn't, and so now the embassy told me that I had to get a new passport first. Now that was another complication because I was in Panama, but I wasn't an official resident in Panama. I was there as a tourist, right? So in order for me to get a new passport, I would have to travel back to my home country, the Netherlands, or to Bulgaria, where I've been an official resident for a while. That's where the company of Get Paid for Your Pad is also located. So that was another huge implication, because in order to go back and get an appointment, get your new passport, that was going to take quite a while. So I figured, like, why don't I try to get my new passport at the Dutch embassy in Panama. Now, normally you can't do that if you're not a resident, right? So, but I figured, it's always worth a shot to try. So I went to the Dutch embassy in Panama with all the documents except for my residence permit, because I didn't have that. And the girl that helped me with this with the application for a new passport, she just kind of overlooked it. She never, I gave her all the documents, and she never asked for anything. She never asked for like the resident permit. I think she was also kind of distracted because I actually brought a passport photo that was the wrong size. And so when I gave her the documents, she immediately started talking about the passport photo. And she was saying like, oh, this is not the right size, because I used the ones that I created for the US embassy, but the Dutch embassy has a different photo size standards or whatever it is. So she was telling me like, hey, your photo is like way too big. And then I started talking to her, and I kind of explained my situation. And I was like, well, I really hope that this is not going to delay my process of getting my passport. because we're very eager to, to get this over with and move to the States. So she told me, you know what, like, let me see if I can help you with this, right? So she got out a bunch of scissors and she actually cut the photo to the right size. And then she submitted all the documents in the machine, and she told me like, hey, let's see if the system will take this, right? And then there was a green light on the machine, so she told me like, hey, yeah, the system accepted your photo, so I think we're all good. And so I was very happy, and I think because of that process, I think she kind of forgot to check my document, so. Anyway, a few weeks later, my new passport arrived, so I went back to the U.S. Embassy and finally got my visa. After it took over 2 years in total. So once we got our visas approved, we then booked a flight to Miami. We rented a Airbnb in Deerfield Beach, which, by the way, is a great location. I really enjoyed that place on the beach, just an hour north of Miami. We were there on the weekends of the Formula One, so like it was very hard to find an Airbnb, so we decided to book one, kind of outside of the city. But the reason we booked this Airbnb is because all of my wife's family lives in Florida, and so we decided to put on a surprise party. So we only talked to one of the family members to let them know that we were coming. The rest of the family was completely unaware of the fact that we were able to travel to the States. So it was so cool. We basically the person that we informed, like this person informed all the other family members and basically came up with an excuse to get them all down to this Airbnb in Deerfield. And so they were expecting that they were just going to have a party with their, with the family members. They didn't know that we were going to be there. So we waited for them to arrive, and I filmed everything, and it was a massive surprise for all the family members to see my wife, which was amazing, very emotional, and it was really cool for me as well because basically I have a new family, right? Which is amazing, and the family is from Venezuela. So if you're familiar with Latin American hospitality and how important family is in their culture, then it's pretty special to to suddenly have all these new family members who basically welcome you into the family with so much love and so much enthusiasm. So it was really amazing experience. So we stayed there for about a week or so, and then we came down to here to Encinitas. And now the next challenge was like, how do we rent an apartment? Because if you've ever rented an apartment in the States, I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but here in California, especially in the region around Encinitas, there's not a lot of apartments available. And when something comes on the market, it's gone within days, right? And so the landlords kind of get to choose who they want to rent to. And, me being a foreigner who just literally fresh off the plane, I guess I should say, I don't have a credit score. I don't have, any history in the States. Like I did live in Chicago in 2009, 2010, but that's so long ago. I don't think there's even any records of that. But, without a social security number, without a bank account here, without a credit score, it was almost impossible to rent an apartment around there. So we spent quite a few weeks talking to brokers, talking to landlords, talking to as many people as I could talk to, which is one of the reasons it's just been hard to record any podcast because we were so focused on this. Because I just did not want to stay in the hotel for months, and kind of talking to some of Eric's friends and Eric as well, I realized even locals, it takes them months to find like a decent apartment in this area. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to live in a hotel for months. So what we did is we started looking a little bit more inland. So if you're familiar with the area, there's an area around San Marcos, which is actually very beautiful. Like initially we kind of wanted to live close to the beach, but this is a very beautiful area around San Marcos with lots of hills, lots of nature, parks, there's lakes. So we were both pretty excited about this area, and we found a company called Camden, and this is like a huge company. They have hundreds of projects all around the states where they have these communities where they rent out apartments. And I started talking to them, and it sounded like they were a little bit more flexible when it comes to the credit score and all of that stuff. So eventually we're able to to come to an agreement where the payment was also challenging, because normally they only accept a cashier's check or a money order for the first month of rent and the deposit. But I didn't have any of that as well, so I probably would have been able to get that through like friends. But they eventually agreed that I could pay with my credit card. They eventually agreed that it wasn't a big deal that I didn't have any credit history and the social security number, and yeah, they just agreed for us to rent this apartment. So we were super happy, because it was I was getting a little bit worried of okay, how do we get a home here now that we're here? So a bit of a process, but now I'm here, and we are going to be here for about 2 years at a minimum. This visa is also extendable, so we can extend it for an additional year, unlimited times. So who knows? I might be here for the rest of my life, but we'll see. You never know what the future will bring. But I wanted to thank a number of people who have supported me through this process. Well, really, I want to thank everybody, because the reason that my visa was approved was really the evidence that I was able to show was just the amount of people that bought my book, the amount of people that listened to this podcast. We have some pretty big numbers. I think we're up to like 1.5 million downloads. About 50,000 people have bought the Get Paid for Your Pet book. The email subscribers that we have, all the students, the Legends X students have gone through our programs, the mastermind members, like all of that really allowed me to show the credibility. And then also a huge deal was the recommendation letters that I've received from quite a few people. So I want to say a big thank you for everybody, listening to the podcast, on our email list, reading our emails, just being part of our community, because this community has really allowed me to, allowed myself and my wife to move to the States. So we're super grateful for all of you. And I wanted to give a shout out to a few individuals who have who've really supported me and helped me with recommendation letters. These letters were really, really important. So I'm going to do a couple shout outs. Let me take a quick sip of water. So first of all, Mr. Jacob Jacobi, the president and founder of Hostfully, who I've actually stayed at his home in San Francisco in 2014. He's become a good friend of mine. So David, thank you so much for your help. Andrew Kitchell at Wheelhouse, also has become a friend of mine, and he's helped me a lot with the letter. Also been very we love using we use Hostfully and Wheelhouse ourselves, by the way, for FreeWild. I'm super happy with their software. So thank you so much, Andrew, for your support, and I hope to see you soon here in the US. I want to thank Jesse Krieger, who's the publisher who helped me publish the book. Also wrote me a letter of recommendation. The one and only Mr. Chip Conley. Yes, the one and only Mr. Chip Conley also helped me with a recommendation letter. So I want to thank Chip. He's the founder of the Modern Elder Academy. But of course, he's also worked at Airbnb, and he's still a mentor of Brian Chesky. He's also the founder of a hotel brand called Joy Vivre. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It's French. Let's see. Next up is Mr. Simon Lehman. He's the founder of the AGL Atelier. He's been in our mastermind, and he's well, I probably don't have to introduce him. He's a bit of a celebrity in the short-term rental industry. So Simon, thank you so much for your help. The one and only Julie George, who was a coach on the Legends X program. She has the $1 Million Host. I'm sure you know her as well. Incredible lady. And so thank you, Julie, for your help as well. and we share a birthday, by the way. We're both born on July 3rd. So that's really fun. And then, of course, my business partner, Eric Miller, he's also been a great support, not just with the formal stuff, but also just kind of being a great business partner and, some emotional support that was needed many times going through this process. And then last but not least, Lisa Betten, my lawyer, I mentioned her before. She's done an incredible job, so thank you so much, Lisa. With that said, let me see. There was a couple other things I wanted to cover on this podcast. First of all, I don't know if you guys been following the news, but Hostaway, which is a property management software, they raised $175 million, which is absolutely crazy. So I want to do a shout out to Marcus Rader, the founder of Hostly. Incredible what you've accomplished, and I know Marcus and I actually met in person at the VMRA in, I think it was October 2020. And I remember he mentioned to me that at the time they were quite small, but he mentioned to me, one day we will be big. And well, they're really big now. $175 million is a lot of money. I was reading this article, actually. It's the second largest investment in the travel space this year, which is huge, right? The only company that's raised more money than Hostaway is a company called ITA Airways, which is an actual airline. They raised $366 million. And this data is from Crunchbase, so I'm assuming it's correct. But yeah, Hostaway is the only other company in the travel space this year who's managed to raise more than $100 million. And other than the fact that this is amazing for Marcus and the team and Hostaway, this is also very indicative of how much confidence investors have in the short-term rental space, right? We've talked on this podcast quite a bit on how there might be a little bit of a slowdown going on, and there was all this talk about the Airbnb bust. But to me, this just shows that investors have huge confidence in the growth of the short-term rental space. So it's very indicative of this raise is very indicative of that trust that investors have. So I think that's a really good sign for us in the short-term rental space. It's just kind of a confirmation that this industry is right now and is going to be a great place to be. Also, I wanted to share one quick kind of tip on how to get some bookings. I know there's definitely a lot of hosts that are experiencing a slowdown compared to last year. There's a lot of members in our mastermind that have communicated this. A lot of people on the email list on this podcast. So one thing that was kind of interesting, if you remember, I think it was like a month ago or so, that Airbnb came out with this huge update. Right, lots of new features, and which is also all really cool. But what Airbnb never does is, when they always announce like the updates and the things the new things on the platform, but they never really tell you like what they're taking away or what they're changing. And they're probably they probably won't announce it because they probably expect that the hosts aren't going to receive it well. So a couple of things I noticed was, for example, the way that you can the requirements that you can set for instant booking guests has changed. Now, I think this has been already changed like last year actually, but I noticed it recently. And then also they took away the custom promotions. So you used to be able on Airbnb to do custom promotions, right? Where you do a specific promotion for a couple days, and that would always kind of give your listing a little bit of a boost. So it was a very popular tool for hosts, to use, especially when you see a bit of a slowdown. You put a couple promotions out there, and typically that will get you some bookings, and then that will get you some momentum to kind of get out of that slow spot that you're in, right? So it was a very popular tool. Airbnb would also give you a little special badge for this promo, and they would like cross off the old price and display the new price. So it would really, give you, it'd be a way to really catch some attention. And I think they would also include the promos in the emails that they would send out to hosts. So now with the new update, they took that out. And so if you've already updated, so when they came out with the update, like there was an option to be an early bird in the new updates, right? So you would have to, on the Airbnb website, you have to click like the early bird button, and then Airbnb would upgrade your account to the new features. But that also means that they would take away the custom promo option. And once you upgrade to the new version, you can go back. So a lot of people in our mastermind were not very happy with that, because they couldn't do those promos, the custom promos anymore. But I saw a quick Loom video that was published by Vince at Uplisting. So shout out to Vince. Thank you for for letting us know, because he found a way to, even after you update, to still be able to use the custom promos by basically adding a new team member on Airbnb. So on Airbnb, you can add team members. So you just add a new team member, and then that new team member is going to still have access to the custom promo. So this is kind of like a workaround. I noticed a couple members in our mastermind have already done this, and they used it, and they did see an uptick in bookings. So I just want to share that with you guys. I don't know how long this is still going to be available. So if you're seeing a lull in bookings, go ahead and use this trick to see if you can get some extra bookings. And it always helps to make updates to your listings as well. That's another thing that you can always do. Is just update your listing, just add some new photos, add some new captions, change the description, change the title, change your profile, just change a lot of things on your profile, on your listing, because then what tends to happen is that Airbnb notices that you've changed a bunch of things, and they want to test out if that's going to drive more bookings, so they'll kind of give you a boost in the search results. So those are a couple of things you can do. Now, last but not least, I wanted to make some announcements. So to kind of celebrate the fact that I've been able to move to the States, I wanted to create something special for the community to essentially work together for the rest of 2023. Obviously, there's a lot of hosts in the last couple of years. So we've had hundreds of hosts go through a Legends X program or Mastermind, or we have a one-on-one coaching program. But these programs are, they require quite a significant investment. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to put something together where I can work with a select number of hosts for the rest of 2023. So about, 7 months or so, where I'm going to do my best to help you reach your goals for this year, right? Whether that's like adding more units or optimizing your current business, streamlining it, like everything that I've learned over the last 11 years. I want to help a select number of hosts really crush it in 2023, and I want to make this available at a very affordable price, specifically for those people who we have hundreds and hundreds of people who applied for our programs in the past that just weren't able to make the investment. So I wanted to put something out there, kind of like my personal project. I'm going to call it the Get Paid for Your Pet VIP Success Program, fancy name. I want to make this available for affordable for any host, or at least like most hosts out there. So the investment is going to be under $3,000, and we'll be working together for the rest of the year. This means we're going to be you have access to me in Slack, so you can literally message me on a daily basis. We're going to do weekly group calls, but I also want to do some one-on-one time as well to really get to know you, get to know your business, and really put together an action plan of how are we going to achieve your goals in 2023 with your business, right? So I'm going to do a number of one-on-one calls, and I also would love to meet you. So I want to do an in-person meeting as well as part of this program, because I love meeting people in general, but I love meeting people from our community. I know there's a lot of people been listening to the podcast for years. It's always funny when a student joins a program who's been listening to Get Paid for Your Pet for like 8 years or something, like it's funny because they already know me quite well because they're listening, to all these episodes. I don't know them, and it's just so cool to like get to know these people. I love meeting everybody in person, and I think it's meeting in person is also extremely powerful. Eric and I actually just had a in-person VIP day with one of our one-on-one coaching clients. And the amount of stuff that you can get done in a day, just breaking down the business and, just talking through all the aspects, the strategy, the marketing, like it's just so powerful to meet in person. So in this program, I want to include an in-person meeting. This could be, if you're around here, like we could meet here, maybe we can meet at a conference, or maybe I can even fly out to where you are and actually stay at one of your Airbnbs, which I'm super excited about to really, stay with some people in our community. That's something that I haven't been able to do in the last few years, as I haven't been able to travel to the States. So that's just something that I'm really excited about. Now, obviously, this program, I can only kind of do this with a few people because it's going to require quite a bit of time investment on my part. My vision for this is really that we get to know each other, we kind of become friends, and really work together to focus on your business and let's make 2023 the best year in your business. So obviously I'm thinking maybe 10 to 15 people or something I can take on. I've got quite a bit of other stuff going on, of course, especially with the launch of FreeWild, which I'm super excited about in Idlewild. And I haven't even mentioned this, but I actually went down to Idlewild, which is where Eric and I bought our first FreeWild property. Well, it wasn't FreeWild at the time. We bought it in September 2021, but now we've completely renovated it. There's 4 cabins on a piece of land of like 3 acres. So I'd never been there, and it was just so cool to finally be able to walk around on the land that we bought. Walk through the units and seeing the renovations. It's going to be absolutely amazing, these properties. I'm so excited about it now. It's a lot more fun to work on a project when you're actually being at the property versus like just looking at photos. So but on the side note, we could for an in-person meeting, we could meet maybe there as well. That would be pretty cool. So if you're interested in this, and by the way, I put together a payment program too. So even if the $3,000 is too much to invest into, I put together a payment program so you can actually get started, for under $1,000. So the whole idea is, to kind of make this accessible to as many hosts as possible. I'm really looking for some people who are willing to put in some time, right? Willing to, kind of take action. Because for me, the most important thing, the most fulfillment, I think generally in life, I think having a positive impact on somebody else's life, I think is the biggest fulfillment you can get. And that's why it's very important for me that the people that I work with actually are getting a result. Because otherwise, I don't want to sell like a video course or something that somebody then, watches 10% and then never touches again. That's not fulfilling to me. What's fulfilling to me is, seeing people take a vacation for the first time in like 5 years and not having to check their Airbnb messages, right? People like, like one of our mastermind members sold her business like a couple of weeks ago. It's amazing, right? Or have grown like quadrupled their portfolio, tripled their portfolio. That's the kind of stuff that gets me really excited. So if you're interested in this, I'm thinking about 10 to 15 people ish. If you're interested, just email me at team@overnightsuccess.io. You can also message me on Facebook or Instagram, or if you have my number, you can just send me a text. And let me know if you're interested, and I'll come back to you with all the details. I'm looking to kick this off next week, actually, so that we have a full almost 7 months to work together. So if you're interested, let me know, and then we'll take it from there. And that was it for today. So thank you for listening. As I mentioned, now that I'm here in the States, I got my apartment. I just need to get my social security number, bank account, like things like that. But I'm pretty much set up here to dive fully into overnight success and FreeWild as well. So I will be publishing the podcast as I used to on a Monday and on a Friday. We'll be sending out emails. We'll basically be back in action and be pumping out much more content than I was able to do in the last month or so. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And again, thanks to everybody who's been listening, buying the book, reading our emails, reading our blog posts, our YouTube videos, all that stuff. Everybody every single comment or view or like has contributed to me being able to move down here. So super grateful for that. Have a great weekend. And the next episode will be in a few days on Monday. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.